My sister Tamar did not like that I was writing this book. She did not say so directly. She said she had stopped trusting men with words a long time ago, and that whenever a man wrote a thing down, he was deciding what would be remembered and what would not. And her experience of being remembered by men was that women appeared at the edges and disappeared in the middle. I asked her once if she would write her own. She laughed. "I will not write your book and you will not write mine." But the year Eliezer was 4, she sent me a letter. The letter was 4 sheets long. The handwriting was hers, careful, square, the way she had been taught to write by an old widow in the town she had moved to after the road, because the widow had decided a girl who could not write would not survive the century. Tamar had been 17 when she learned. She had practiced on the inside of broken pots before she could afford ink. She sent the letter through the same boy who had brought Mary's bird. She wrote on the outside, "For your book if you write it, and only the parts I let you keep." I have kept the letter for 46 years. What follows are her words, set down as nearly as my old hand can copy them. I have changed nothing except to clean the places where the ink had bled. I have not improved her sentences. Her sentences do not need improvement. She said it would be enough if one girl read this and understood that there had been women on that road who were not at the edges, but in the middle. From Tamar to my brother Dagon in the 4th year of his son. Brother, you asked me once what it was like to walk with them. I did not answer. I am answering now. It was like nothing. That is the first thing. The years I walked with Mary and the other women, the 10 months, and then the 8 months, and then the 4 months, and then the times I came back when my children were old enough to keep their own counsel for a week. None of it felt like a thing while I was inside it. It only felt like the work. We woke before the men. We banked the fire. We ground the grain. We brought the water. We sorted the lentils. We swept the camp. We did not feel like history. History was a word men used about other men. I am writing this in 3 sittings because writing takes me longer now than it did when the widow first taught me. You will read it in one. Forgive the seams. It became a thing later, when I came home. When my neighbor's daughter asked me, with a face I did not yet know how to read, what Mary the Migdalite was like up close. I said she snored. The daughter looked disappointed. She had wanted me to say Mary glowed. I am sorry. Mary snored. She also worked harder than any woman I have known. I want to tell you the things you would not have noticed because you were a man and were looking at the teacher and not at the camp. I want to tell you because you have a son and you will have, God willing, a daughter, and your daughter is the one who needs to know. We were called names on the road. I will not list them. You can imagine. A woman who leaves her town to follow a teacher is, in the eyes of every town she passes through, a thing the town has a word for. We did not always hear the words. We heard the silence after. A woman would step into a doorway as we approached. A boy would be called inside. A man would spit and look away, and his spit would land where we had to walk. We learned to walk a slightly different way after the first month, head tilted not down but level, eyes on the horizon, the way women learn to walk when the town wants them to be invisible and they have decided they will not be. Mary taught me that walk. She did not teach me with words. She did it. I copied. I will tell you what Mary was actually like. She was not the wild woman the stories will make her. She was not the woman with the long, loose hair and the wide eyes and the haunted mouth. Whoever paints her that way has not met a woman who has been alone. Women who have been alone learn to braid their hair tight because loose hair is something a hand can grab, and the hands of the men who had been around her before the teacher had taught her this before she was 16. Her hair was always tight. Her eyes were not haunted. Her eyes were the eyes of a woman who had decided, for reasons she did not share with me until the 3rd winter, that she would not look away anymore, from anything. She had been a woman of 7 cities before the teacher. That is what some of the others said when they thought she could not hear them. I did not ask. I did not need to. I had been a woman of 1 town, and that town had taken almost as much from me as 7 cities can take. The math is not strict. The shape is the same. What I learned from her was this. There are 2 kinds of women on a road. There are the women who become smaller in order to survive being seen. There are the women who become exactly their own size and refuse to be seen as less. Mary was the 2nd kind. I had been the 1st kind. The teacher did not change me into the 2nd kind. Mary did. Mary did the work. The teacher only blessed the work after it was done, and I have come to understand that this is what some teachers are for. We did the things you would expect. We washed. We cooked. We mended. We carried the water for the foot washing because the men would not have known where to begin, and the boys who knew where to begin were still small enough to need a woman to lift the jar. We did the things you would not expect. We sat up at night with the women who could not be brought into the daylight teaching. The widow whose son had been crucified the year before and whose face had stopped making sounds. The girl who had been used by 3 men in her own household before she was 13 and whose mother had agreed to it because the men were paying. The slave girl who had been freed by a Roman who then died, leaving her with no papers and no town. The wife whose husband beat her when wine made him brave. The mother whose child had stopped breathing in her arms and whose husband had told her it was her fault. We took these women in at the back of the camp where the firelight was lowest, and we did not bring them to the teacher right away because they could not yet bear to be looked at by a man, not yet, not even him. We brought them to Mary first. Mary brought them through. The work of bringing a woman through is not work that has a word. It was sitting still long enough that the woman remembered her body could be still without being struck. It was eating slowly enough that she remembered eating could be a thing you did with your own hands. It was singing the old songs at the right hour of the evening, so the woman remembered her mother had once sung them, and that her mother had been a person too. It was teaching her to keep her hair tight. It was teaching her to walk level. It was teaching her on the day she was ready to look at the teacher across the camp and decide whether his eyes would help her or whether his eyes would be another set of eyes, and to walk away if they were the second. Most days the women decided his eyes were the first kind. Some days they did not. Some women left after a week and went back to the town that had broken them. We did not chase them. Mary said chasing them would be one more man's hand on the back of their neck. She said the road would either bring them back or carry them somewhere else, and either way the work we had done was not wasted, because they had eaten and slept and been silent and not been struck for the length of 7 nights, and 7 nights of that was a number a woman could carry her whole life. There was a girl named Yale, or rather, that was the name she gave us, and she may have chosen it new because she could no longer carry the one her father had used. She came to the back of the camp in the 2nd year. She did not speak for 9 nights. On the 10th, she said one word. The word was the name of a town. We did not ask which town. We did not need to. Some towns explain themselves. She stayed 3 months. She left with a Greek widow named Thea who had also been with us, and the 2 of them went somewhere east. I have a letter from Yale once a year. She is fine. She has a child of her own. I will not tell you her child's name because the child is not your business, and I do not write down names without permission anymore. I think about that often, brother. 7 nights. You ask if any of it changed me. It changed me in ways the men around me did not see. I went home harder. I went home softer, both at once, and I will try to say what I mean. Harder. I will not be spoken to the way I was spoken to as a girl, not by my husband in his last years when wine made him forget what he had married, not by my neighbors who learned that asking me to be small no longer worked, not by the men in the market who used to lean too close when I bought grain. I learned at the back of that camp that a woman's no did not require anyone's permission to be a no. The teacher had not taught me that directly. Mary had taught me that by being a no that no man could move. Softer. I can sit with a crying woman now without trying to fix her. That is harder than it sounds. The first reflex when a woman cries is to make her stop crying because her crying makes us afraid, and we have been trained from girlhood to manage other people's sorrow so we can return to the small sphere of our own. Mary taught me to put that down. She taught me by sitting with me when I cried about you. Yes, I cried about you. You did not know you were stealing bread at a wedding. She did not try to fix me. She sat. She breathed evenly. After a while, my breathing matched hers without my permission. After a longer while, I stopped crying because the crying was finished, not because I had been talked out of it. I have done that for other women since. It is the thing I am proudest of carrying out of those years. I have done it for my daughter. I have done it for my neighbor's daughter. I have done it for the woman whose husband left her in the 2nd year of my widowhood. I have done it for the widow whose son died and whose other son blamed her. I have done it for myself, on the nights when I remembered our mother on the road, and I had been 6 and could not have done anything, and the part of me that has been 6 all my life has needed someone to sit with her. And finally there was someone, and that someone was me. Brother, there is one more thing I will say, and then I will leave you to your book. The teacher we walked with, your teacher, in the way you have used him, in the way men have to use him, as a thing they call by his name, and a thing they argue about, and a thing they paint pictures of. He was not, to us, what he was to you. To us, he was a man who let women sit at the front of his teaching when other teachers would not let them in the room. He was a man who did not flinch when Mary touched his feet. He was a man who said daughter to the woman whose blood would not stop, and daughter the way a father says it, not the way men use the word to make a woman small. He was a man who slept on the cold side of the fire so the older women could have the warm side. He was a man who said to me once in passing, "Tamar, your hands have done enough for today," and meant it, and made me sit down and brought me water himself, like a younger brother. That is the man we knew. He did not glow, he did not float, he did not heal everyone, he did not feed everyone, he did not turn every house he walked into upside down. He did one thing mostly that I will tell you because the men will not write it. He treated women the way he treated men. That sounds small in your tongue. Brother, you have not been a woman in this country. In this country, that is not small. I am going to stop writing now because my candle is going. You may keep this letter or burn it. I trust you to know which. Your sister, Tamar, Eliezer, I am setting her letter in the book. I trust her also to know that I knew which. I have not improved a word of her hand except to write it down in mine. She has been right about every man she has ever written about, including me, and she will be right about her